Introduction. Beyond the madness of Subarashiki Hibi. When Western visual novel readers discuss wonderful everyday, down the rabbit hole, Subarashiki Hibi, the conversation often revolves around its disturbing psychological horror, mind-bending denpa elements, and extreme narrative twists. It is frequently labeled as a game of madness. However, to reduce wonderful everyday to mere shock value is to miss its true essence. Beneath the chaotic and often traumatizing surface lies something entirely different, a remarkably pure and profound philosophical masterpiece. At its core, the narrative is a deep exploration of Ludwig Wittgenstein's philosophy, particularly his Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. Through the fragmented realities of its protagonists, the game attempts to tackle the fundamental questions of human existence. What are the limits of our world? Why do we fear death? And most importantly, how can we find true happiness in a world filled with unexplainable absurdity and despair? In this article, we will look beyond the madness to decode the true message of wonderful everyday. By analyzing the philosophical concept of subspecie eternitatis, the view from eternity, and exploring the stark contrast between animalistic peace and human suffering, we will uncover the profound meaning behind the game's ultimate commanding message: live happily. The animal's happiness versus the human's despair. Why are animals always happy? In the game, Yuki makes a profound statement. Animals are always happy. At first glance, this seems counterintuitive. Animals face starvation, predation, and disease. However, from a Wittgensteinian perspective, their happiness stems from their lack of reason. They live entirely in the eternal present. Because they do not comprehend the concept of the past or the future, they do not experience regret or the fear of death. The curse of human possibilities. Humans, on the other hand, are burdened by intellect. We can imagine what-if possibilities contrary to fact. We regret our past mistakes and dread our inevitable future, death. This ability to simulate alternate realities and future tragedies is what gives birth to despair. In Subarashiki Hibi, characters like Tomasane are initially crushed by this very human curse, feeling helpless against the cruelties of their circumstances. Wittgenstein and the limits of language. Death is not an event in life. To cure this human despair, we must understand the limits of our own thoughts. Wittgenstein famously stated in his Tractatus, "Death is not an event in life. We do not live to experience death." Since we can only think about and describe what we have experienced, death, being the absolute end of experience, cannot be conceptualized. Fearing death is like trying to solve a math problem that has no numbers. It goes beyond the limits of human logic and language. Words, beauty, and prayer. If we cannot logic our way out of despair, what is left? Yuki suggests that humans can reach happiness through three things: words, beauty, and prayer. While language has its limits, it allows us to define our world. Beauty, art, allows us to experience the world beyond mere survival. And prayer is not about asking a religious deity for favors, but rather the act of believing that life itself holds meaning, even in the face of absolute absurdity and tragedy. Subspecie eternitatis, the view from eternity. This brings us to the ultimate philosophical goal of the game. Subspecie eternitatis, or the view from eternity. Wittgenstein argued that a good life is one where the world is viewed under the aspect of eternity. Instead of seeing your life as a series of fortunate or unfortunate events, imagine looking at it from the outside, like an observer viewing a completed painting. Every stroke, the pain, the joy, the bullying, the love, makes the artwork what it is. It is entirely unique and irreplaceable. When you can accept and affirm your entire existence as a singular, complete work of art, without comparing it to others, you have reached the view from eternity. Conclusion. Live happily. A philosophical tautology. The game culminates in a single powerful imperative. Live happily. It is not a polite request. It is a command. But why should we live happily? Wittgenstein would argue that the question itself is flawed. Happiness is a tautology, it justifies itself. You do not live happily because you achieved your dreams, or because you escaped hardship. You live happily because a happy life is the only right way to live. Wonderful Every Day challenges us to stop rationalizing our misery. No matter how tragic the circumstances, the answer remains the same. Embrace the eternal present, view your life as an irreplaceable masterpiece, and simply, unconditionally live happily.